the Fed. I think we need to reconsider Article 14 of the act that created the Federal Reserve. We need to know why it is that we are lending, for example, $500 billion to foreign countries and not lending money that gets businesses in our country liquid again. Why are we bailing out Wall Street companies to the tune of $4 trillion? I think because my opponent has sat on the Financial Services Committee that he would have some insights into this. Maybe he'll explain to me why we have these policies. But those are the kinds of things that I would examine before deciding whether to increase or decrease taxes. We have to do it cooperatively. I believe there is enough congenial spirit within both houses of the United States Congress to take on these tough issues, as long as every bill doesn't include punishment for the other party. Fortunately, I don't really care whether a person is a Democrat or a Republican, because I'm neither. I'm willing to work with both parties as a trained person in conflict resolution. I know how to bring people to the table. It's not just inviting somebody to dinner, but it's working day after day to make sure that we're serving the interests of our country and not just our party.
All right, let's switch gears here. Immigration reform. Gentlemen, I want your thoughts on the DREAM Act or some other similar type of measure that would allow undocumented immigrants in this country who were born in this country to stay in this country, to have a path to citizenship, if you will. What are your feelings on that? Some would call it amnesty, whatever, you know, whatever label you want to put on it. But the philosophy and the approach, the policy issue is at hand. Where would you come down on that one?
As the son and grandson of immigrants, I can tell you that my parents and grandparents, my mom was born in New York, but my father and all four of my grandparents were born overseas, and they worked very hard to make sure that I could be born an American citizen, that I would have the blessings of liberty that this country provides, that I would have a good education in this country. The same things, by the way, that my opponent has enjoyed, a good public education right here in Bakersfield, as he has had, and I went to public school as well. I don't think that depriving people of the opportunity to become good Americans makes any sense at all. We can't continue treating people as potential criminals just because they're not born in this country. It is true that the rule of law is very important. We have to make sure that the laws are reformed to accommodate our national interests, and not some crazy idea that just because someone's born in Mexico or elsewhere in the world, that they're a threat to us. They're not a threat to us. People come here because they want to have better lives for themselves and for their children. They come here because they want to contribute to our society. Yes, of course, there are bad people among them. Let's focus on them. Let's not criminalize every single immigrant, whether he follows the rules or not. Let's find ways of making sure that everybody can enjoy the blessings of liberty. That's what our country's about.
Congressman McCarthy, DREAM Act, some similar measure, some policy that mirrors that.
I've been working with Senator Rubio about an idea that we can deal with the immigration issue. First and foremost, you have to secure the borders. You can't continue this. We dealt with this a number of years ago. Now we have more undocumented sitting in here that we have to deal with.
Okay, let's start right there. Put troops on the borders, what?
There's a couple different things you can do. We've built a number of security walls. There's technology today where you can use many different things. What's happening on this other side of the border today is a major drug war. Our country, unfortunately, has contributed to it with Fast and Furious. We've been fighting to get the answers for that, for one. Secondly, I would do, this country's one of its greatest strengths is the rule of law, that everyone is created equal. But if you create a society where you break down the rule of law, you will break down all society. Before you do anything on immigration, you control the borders.
Well, okay,
once you control the borders,
we have the borders controlled, then what do you do?
I don't think you reward bad behavior, for one. You create a system where people can immigrate legally to here. You don't reward people at all. I think there has to be a touchback provision where they touch back, put in the system, and then come back.
What about children who were born on American soil, didn't come here, didn't sneak across the border?
I think there's a way we can deal with them if they haven't created the system on their own.
Let me extend this with one more question. What about children who are born on U.S. soil? Their parents, they live with their parents in their homes. The parents are found to be undocumented and now face the threat of deportation because they're here illegally. Would you favor uprooting that home, that family, in order to enforce the immigration law?
Of course not. Of course not. A fundamental principle of our country is to keep families together. We have to find ways of making sure that our principles are more important than the changes in our laws. We have to accommodate our principles, our core values, not just because one interest group or another wants their particular fellow countrymen to have the greater quota. The idea of building walls, I was in Berlin. I don't want the United States to turn into another divide between East and West, or in our case, between North and South. We need to be embracing our neighbors. The way we solve the immigration problem is by getting to know our neighbors. The way to solve the drug problem on the other side of the border is not to build walls, not to treat them as the enemy, but to solve the problem of drugs. You solve the problem of demand, not supply. We've been suffering from drug problems for centuries.
You wouldn't have your federal government give the drug runners guns, and you wouldn't deny the fact that you did.
But that program was created under the Bush administration.
Regardless of whoever created
we'll put the blame where it belongs.
Then if you're really bipartisan, let's get to the answer of it. And let's not let our Attorney General hide from the fact. Regardless, I wasn't in office, but if our government has done something wrong, let's own up to it and solve it. How many Mexicans have been able to be killed on the other side of the border based upon our government giving them guns and this administration hiding from the facts?
I agree. But the solution to that problem is not to put people in an untenable position when you divide families.
All right, we're getting a little short on time. We want to cover a couple other topics.
Go to foreign policy here. Let's talk about our dependency on foreign oil. This has been something that has been debated for so long, and so many different things have been tried. Mr. Phillips, how would you propose trying to curb this country's dependency on foreign oil?
Well, we have some great opportunities for energy right here in our district, and I know Mr. McCarthy knows at least as much about this as I do. He's been intimately involved in wind energy tax credits. He voted against them, but I think that Tehachapi, where we have a lot of those wind farms, and he supported some of those measures but opposed others. I think we need to have a more all-embracing policy, not just for oil, which we're never going to stop pumping oil. We pump 10% of the country's oil right here. We'll continue to do that. But we need to go far beyond petroleum. We should be the Saudi Arabia of solar power and of wind power.
But how do we get there?
Through incentives for the producers here. We're not building those products here. The turbines that we see down in the south part of this district are imported. I think a lot of them are made in Germany. We should be providing incentives, tax incentives. That's something the federal government can do so that we have construction of not just erecting the towers, but constructing the material here. And we need to go further than that. I would like to see, I wish Mr. McCarthy had done this when he was in the state legislature. I'd like to see a bill proposed in California that would require or that would provide incentives to put solar panels on every new construction in the state. We could solve a lot of our energy problems taking advantage of the resources we have today. But the last thing in the world I want us to do, as he has proposed, is to open up our coastline to drilling. Imagine if there were another Deepwater Horizon problem on the coast. It could end up shutting down the port of Long Beach. We need to be smart about what we do with our resources. We certainly don't need to advocate drilling when we're not even processing the oil we have. And the pipeline from Canada that's going to ship oil outside the country, that doesn't really help us much either. We need to focus on the big picture and solve problems with the resources we have.
All right, and Congressman.
Yeah. This is one of the best issues that divide and show a clear choice between the two of us. When he wrote his book, he said the price of gasoline should go to $9 and $10. That you should punish an individual based upon the car that you have. So I think he believes my opponent $4.85 a gallon isn't high enough for us in Kern County. But the difference here is we can become energy independent. And I haven't sat back. I chair what is called HEAT, the House Energy Action Team. We passed a number of bills that is all the above. That means we're going to have a bridge to the next generation of energy, but today we have oil. Look what North Dakota has done. North Dakota in a short 6 years has surpassed California and even Alaska. Unemployment there is 3%. Why do we send money to other countries when we can fund it here? We are the energy capital we can be. We produce more than 70% of all the oil, but it was about to be shut down. I jumped in. Wind energy, I offered the legislation that extended out further so you get the technology change. But I want science to decide, not government. Government's made a big investment and lost. So science is a better choice. Ethanol's not going to make it. But the difference here is quite clear. I think we should become energy independent. And you know what? Just the Balkan in North Dakota has more oil reserves than entire Saudi Arabia. 10 years ago, we thought we'd have to bring natural gas in. We've now lowered the price because now we are the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. So we need to open up, have common sense where we can protect our environment, at the same time be able to lower the price at the pump. That's hurting our economy.
We've got about 2 minutes left before closing arguments, or closing statements, I should say. 1 minute apiece. How do we stabilize water for the valley? I'm going to start with you, Mr. Phillips.
Well, what we don't do...
1 minute.
What we don't do is agree with the bill that my opponent co-sponsored to ship control of our water distribution to the federal government. The only time prior to tonight that I had an opportunity to speak to the congressman was at a water conference at Bakersfield College last year. And I asked him, why are we doing this? Why are you co-sponsoring with Devin Nunes a bill that would ship control of our state water to the federal government? And he said, well, there's no 10th Amendment issue here. That's exactly what a 10th Amendment issue is. This is a states' rights issue. We worked very hard to solve this problem.
Okay, your point's been made. We're running out of time. 1 minute.
Either my opponent doesn't understand the water issue, or otherwise he's picking fish over people. What we have done is we've worked legislation to bring another 1 million acre-feet so the fish don't win out over people. And you know what? It's the first time you've found from the north to the south. This is a bipartisan issue. The old saying goes, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. We've had water agencies up the entire state, never happened before, to pass legislation, and once again it sits in the Senate. I believe that one thing that happens, the farmers contract for this 100%. They pay 100%, but they get 60% because our water goes out in the Bay Area where he grew up. It shouldn't. It should go to the most plentiful land that we have to feed the world. And it's wrong that you pick fish over people, and I won't stand for it.
All right, and it's time now for closing statements. And Congressman McCarthy won the toss and has elected to go second. So, Mr. Phillips, we'll begin with you. You have 90 seconds.
Well, for starters, I would not pick fish over people either. I think that it's fine to tell funny stories and to make up a new biography for your opponent if you wish, but it's simply not true. I am from the Valley. I have family here in the Valley. I have been in and out of the Valley for years. In some ways, I would like to say that I've spent more time in this city in the last 10 years than my opponent has, because he spends most of his time, understandably, in Washington. But it's very difficult when you're not in the district to know what's going on every day. I've been here every day talking to people. I was on the radio listening to people every day, and I think that's how you solve problems. That's how I have learned to solve problems, by listening to people, by being here when it matters. But tonight I need to ask you a question. It's the same question that President Reagan asked when he first ran in 1980. Are you better off? Will you be better off? Mr. McCarthy has represented this district for almost 6 years. In that time, has he made life for you, for your children, for your grandchildren better? Are your expectations for a better life, for a better quality of life there? If not, then I would respectfully suggest that it's time for a new representative, someone who will listen, someone who will be responsive to your needs. If you elect me, I pledge not to support Wall Street bankers, not to support a party, not to support my rich friends, but to represent you. I thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Congressman McCarthy, you have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you for spending the time with us, and thank you for KGET for doing this. You've given me honor to represent you the last 6 years. And I stated this at the very beginning. You have to answer this one question. Who is the best person to represent the views of your family, your hopes, and yes, even your fears? Washington is broken. We need real solutions. We need solutions for the Central Valley, and I want to be that fighter. I was born and raised here, from Little Red Schoolhouse to BHS to BC to Cal State. I still live in the very first house Judy and I bought. My children, my son graduated from Bakersfield High, where I met Judy. I believe in this valley. I believe in listening to you. There's probably not one of you that's listening tonight that I haven't called your house to belong in a teletown hall. Or maybe you came to the town hall meeting when we wanted to talk and listen about health care, where 3,000 showed up. I'm not going to change my appearance. I'm not going to change my patriotism for this country just to run for office. And I'm definitely not going to make up facts to hope you'll vote for me. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight to end the uncertainty. I'm going to fight for water, just as I passed in the House. I'm going to fight to create a small business climate where, yeah, your son may have the same chance that I did at 19 to start their first small business and pay their way through college. I'm going to fight to end the regulatory system that continues to put the burdens upon us. And most important, I'm always going to listen. We may not agree 100% of the time, but I will promise you this, I will listen to you and fight for you. Washington's not easy. When the Bay Area wanted to take our money for transportation, Senator Boxer, I said no. When they wanted to end the FAA and come into Mojave, I said no. I'll continue to make that happen. It's been an honor to represent you. I would be honored to have your vote to represent and fight for you one more time.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that is all the time we have for the 17 News in-depth political debate. Congressman McCarthy and Terry Phillips, thank you very much for being here and giving us your time.
Thank you so much. And if you missed any portion of our debate, you can watch it on our website at kget.com. And also, we'll see you again next week after NFL Sunday night football as well, when we welcome State Assembly candidates Pedro Rios and Rudy Salas running for the 32nd District.
And as a reminder as well, stay with KGET TV 17 on election night, Tuesday, November 6th, for Kern County's most complete election coverage on 17 News and on kget.com as well. Again, gentlemen, thank you very much. Good luck in your campaigns, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Good night.